So, you know, we would play these, my therapist and I would talk, and I'd be like, I can't, I haven't slept in 2 months. And she's like, you have to sleep. Mind you, I had led up to this. I had been leading up to this life. Like I was so tightly wound. I was so over-exercising. I was so calorie restricted. I was so much stress. There was so much pressure. This just like was the needle in the haystack. This just popped. And my body just was like, Gene would be like, you can't run. You have shingles. You are 103 pounds right now. Yesterday you weighed 126. You are not running. And I'd be like, I can't sit here. I can't stay here. I can't sit still. I can't sit in this, whatever the fuck this is. I have to get the fuck out of here. Like I can't do this. You know, I can't, and I couldn't run. I couldn't drive. I had to just be present in my own brain, in my own everything. And this suicide was now a suicide, but it was like, yeah, we're talking about a suicide, but like, I'm really dealing with all of the shit from my fucking childhood. All of the shit from, I mean, we all are, it's all from our childhood. That's it. You know, and it's repetitive patterns that keep going in our life that we either like energetically pull towards us because that's what we're used to, or we are magnetically pulled to because that's what we are used to. But that's all I'm dealing with. And I remember sitting in therapy and talking about this suicide, and my therapist being like, well, let's talk about your parents. And I'd be like, what the fuck do my fucking parents have to do with this? Like, Doug is dead. You know, like, I am seeing visions. And you want to talk about mommy and dad? Like, I remember just being so angry and bitchy and lashing out at her because I was like, this doesn't align for me. And she was like, you're just not there yet. Like, it will. You're just not there yet. And like, she would like pull me back into like her thought process. But I remember just being like, fuck you. You know, like, I don't want to talk about my parents. Like, I want to talk about the fact that I haven't slept in 2 months. And she was like, you just can't hear it yet, but like, it's because of your parents that you haven't slept in 2 months. It's because of your parents. And like, this is what's happening. Like, you're handling the situation because of what you've learned and how you grew up and like the relationships that you created and, you know, like how you treated other people and how you pushed people away. Like, this is all happening because of this. And like, it was like an existential breakdown. I had no sense of worth for myself. I had no sense of purpose. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't have any of the things that defined me as a person was gone. So my job was no longer the title that I held, my salary, my savings, like the money that I had saved, my entire life's savings was gone. My physical appearance, which I definitely relied a lot on my self-worth, was gone and changed all the time, every day. I didn't know what size I was, you know, like, and I know this sounds super egotistical, but when you work really fucking hard to get someplace and you're there and you've been in that space, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 15 pounds of fucking water inflammation, you start to lose your fucking mind because the math doesn't work. You know how to get to a space physically by X, Y, and Z. You did it and you're there, and just like doesn't do it anymore. Like, no. And I couldn't control my body for the first time in my entire life, or my mind. And those are the two things that I owned that I had so much control over my entire life. Like, that's how I got to where I was, and now I wasn't in charge of that anymore. I was the backseat driver in something that was my own skin.
Wow.
Couldn't fucking deal. And I had to figure out, like, starting from ground zero. And I was pissed. After I got over the fact that I didn't want to kill myself anymore, and I got through that and I did that work, I was fucking angry. And I was coming for you. And then after I got through the angry and I'm coming for you phase, and it was probably like 7 months, I was like Care Bear love. Like after the work, after I sat in my fire, after I cried, like all I had to do was get back to therapy. Like that was what my agenda was. Like if I had therapy, all I had to do the next day was get back to therapy. That was all. Like we had a plan of what my afternoon was going to be. We had it broken down on what I needed to do, who I was going to be around possibly. Everything was going to be mapped out. All I had to do was get my ass back into that office. That's how I survived. That's how I got through not doing bad things to myself. And I'm so grateful for so many people, but especially like my therapist. She's holy shit. That's all I gotta say. Like, and I didn't have any connection to her. I just called the office closest to mine and was like, I have to come see anyone tomorrow. And they're like, what's wrong? And they're like, it's like 2 weeks. I'm like, no, I'm coming in tomorrow. And they're like, why? And I told them, they're like, okay, we'll see you at 3. I'm like, perfect. Had no clue. I just happened to be like matched up with her. And it was like, this was her jam.
It's unbelievable because I'm thinking about this, right? And first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know how difficult that is, and having to relive those moments and walking us through from start to finish. I felt like I was living it right through you, and the amount of strength that you have and that you always will have. I want to remind you of just how unbelievable you are. No matter how dark it gets, I mean, what you've done is just out of this world. And I think one thing that really, really hit me hard too is the kindness of some people not giving up on you and being there for you. I think of your therapist. I even think of that woman that was standing next to you in the Bahamas that bathed you and that was there. The kindness of these everyday humans that said, I'm going to be there for this human that's struggling in one of the deepest moments of her life. And the fact that they stayed with you and that you kept pushing, it's to me when I think of this, right? And I think of how far you've come and how many times you could have given up, right? And how many times you wanted to give up, but you refused. You refused to give up, and you showed up. And even in those darkest of moments, I think it's to anyone out there who may be suffering, whatever it may be. You may think you're in the darkest moment of your life, but sometimes if you just show up, some unbelievable things can happen. And beauty can come out of this unbelievable darkness. And the fact that you were able to continue to go and continue to show up every single day, and you're able to start slowly but surely getting that light back, I have to tell you, it's something that every human being on earth needs to hear. And it proves to us that you can go through literally hell. Like, that is hell. There is no definition you could give me that's hell. That would be worse than that. But the fact that you're here right now and that you're shedding your light with so many people, and even talking to you before this, because when we met you, right, when we had that conversation right before, I see this unbelievable woman that's just smiling and has this insane energy and zest for life. And that same woman went through all of that. It just proves to me how unstoppable you really are. And it gives me so much hope in my own demons. And I think it gives Sean so much hope in his own demons, and everyone out there, their own hope in their own demons, to show that sometimes showing up is all you need to do. And you could be at that rock bottom and you never have to give up. And my God, that gets me motivated beyond belief. And it makes me so proud to know you and to speak to you. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely incredible. It almost leaves you speechless when you hear the story. And like I said earlier, I've heard the story 10, 15 times. It never gets easier hearing that, and just living through you in these times. It's just, you can't fathom. And I think people put so much stress on just things that don't matter. And, you know, people try to deal with these experiences they go through, these, you know, simple things in life that they just put too much stress on and too much emphasis on, when it's like there's very big issues at hand for other people, and it's just incredible. It's so inspiring, and I'm like astonished by just where you're at from where you've been, and it's a true testament to your character. I just thank you so much for sharing with us. This is just, I'm blown away.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It doesn't get easier to tell that story. I'm not gonna lie about it, but it's impacting so many people. And, you know, like we talked about before we started recording, like I've come to realize that like this is no longer about me, and it's about giving back to people that need to hear this, and talking about these really hard things that we all suffer from. There's probably 15 things that out of what I just said is you can resonate from your own life. And if that can help one person pick up a phone and call a therapist, pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody else about where they're at, like if that gets one person to do anything positive to improve their mental state or their life or help them be a better version of themselves, then it's worth it. And I'll keep telling the story, and I will keep talking about it, and I will keep being uncomfortable with it, and it doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's just doesn't, it's not about me, you know. And it's such a weird experience this whole thing has been, to like step out of this space and realize like I had an existential nightmare. I had an existential crisis in my life when I thought I was in a pinnacle point of it. And then I didn't know who I was anymore. And then I had imposter syndrome. I didn't think I was capable of doing anything. And I was suicidal at moments, and I was severely depressed, and I had severe anxiety, and I had all these things going on, and I just was able to thankfully like ground myself, and it wasn't easy, and none of this shit is ever going to be easy. And I can't explain that to people enough. Like dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, and dealing with like suicide, and dealing with any trauma from your childhood, and you know, pushing people away and caging your heart and not letting human beings in because you're afraid to get hurt, and making yourself an unavailable emotionally is not easy to fucking work through. But the rewards that you get from living a life full of love, like for others and yourself, is worth the pain. It's worth it. And I can tell you from like experience that like I am a completely fucking different person than I was before. And this story sucks. It sucks ass. Like I do not wish that upon any human being living on this earth, but I am so fucking grateful that that happened, because I am such a better human. Like I love like from a different space now. And I can't, it's hard to verbalize this stuff to people because I don't want any of the things I wanted before. I don't look at that importance anymore. I do, some of it's value to me, but like some of it isn't. Like it's all from like my heart now. Mm-hmm. And it's all about connecting with people, and it's all about the intention of the life that I want to live. And I have to like really, one of the things I like spend a lot of time on is who I want to show up as, because I was rock bottom. So I had an opportunity to rebuild myself from the inside out, because everything I was doing was from the outside. You know, I was so broken on the inside when I was in the best shape of my life. I was so broken on the inside when I was the happiest I'd ever been. I was not happy. I was externally validating, and it, it might not have been the suicide that broke me. Something was going to take me down.
Yeah.
At some point. It was coming.
Yeah. And I think it's just incredible how if the audience listening, if somebody cut this podcast off at the UFC before the Bahamas, they'd say, oh, she's just a cold, heartless bitch, But from where you've been and the way you grew up with basically the absence of love in your family, in your life, and being very, going down that path through your career and everything to where you're at now. I mean, I think it'd be really, it'd be huge if you could give a couple takeaways of how that process has happened from coming from just the North to South Pole in terms of love. How have you learned to love, and how did you get there?
Yes, I definitely have learned to love. It's such a hard question to answer because there's been so many parts to this that I haven't even talked about yet. Like, there was a trip to Peru that I went on where I, it was like 17 days of like the craziest deep work that you could ever do. And, it's 3 years post this process happening. And I did an ayahuasca ceremony, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's supposed to be. You are?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did it for the first time, and my friend, it was his retreat, and he'd been part of my network for 8 years, and when the suicide happened, he was like, "You got to come to Peru and do ayahuasca," and I was like, "I am ayahuasca, bro. Like, I don't need any."
Yeah.
It's like,
I've lived through it.
this shit's okay. So finally, 3 years later, it was like something in me was like, it's time to like, I've done so much work, I've gotten to this part, and then like, I felt like there was still something like holding me or covering me from like really opening up. Like, I was happy, I was in a good space, but like I felt like I was holding myself back from like opening up, and I needed something, and I felt like this trip was going to be part of it. I didn't realize that the like journey itself was going to crack me as hard as it did. It really, so part of my experience was I sat with my demons, like physically sat down with them, and they tried to attack me. And I mean, for the listeners, ayahuasca is a hallucinogenic drug that you do, and there's a 6 to 8 hour experience that you go through, and it's a journey, and everyone's is individual, and it's based on your intention. So I had very clear intention, and part of this intention for me was to release my traumas. And it doesn't exactly explain itself to you when it's happening, but sometime later it will click in for you that me sitting with my demons was part of me releasing what was holding me back in my heart, because I was still holding on to my shadows, my ultimate lowest fears of my entire life. And I got so close to being available emotionally, and then I would still be like, no, not that close, not that close. You're close enough. And I wasn't letting people in fully. And I had a little, like, I tried to be in a relationship that I thought was going to be really great, but it was really toxic because I was putting up with things because I didn't have any value for myself. Like, deep down, I didn't value myself. I had just come out of the suicide, and I felt like, yes, I did all this work, and yes, I felt like a Care Bear of love, and I was emulating, like I was like a vibrating love, but like I didn't love myself enough still. And I had to go through this poor relationship to realize that I was allowing behaviors because I didn't love myself enough to walk. So I was still pouring from an empty cup, even though I was doing the work. And the more I diving deep into like my shit, my shadows and my fears, like I realized that like it keeps unlocking new levels of like how I want to show up and like how I want to love and like what I want in my life. And it's leading with intention. Like I think about who I want to show up as and I write that down, like 10 ways I want to show up in this world, and I make sure that like I am doing those. Like I'm showing up with integrity, I am showing up authentically, I am aligning with, you know, in the business world with people that have the same vision as I do, and letting go of, you know, easy big money, you know, walking away from projects that don't align with who I am, and coming more from a place of service in that space, and, you know, just making sure that the things that I want to be, I am being. Making time for people that are important to me, very important, creating space and presence, and really making sure that I'm connecting with people in relationships, and not just having superficial bullshit, you know, not just having people around because I need, you know, to be in a relationship, making sure that I want to be with them and provide them with presence and actually show up. And if not, then I shouldn't be there.
What's amazing about this whole situation too is like, I think a lot of times when we really, really struggle, it's very comfortable or easy to not give ourselves a shot. And you gave yourself a chance to heal. And even though it didn't feel comfortable and you sat in some unfathomable pain, you just being there and showing up every single day, even if you felt like hell and you felt like today was going to be the day that you wanted to end it all, you gave yourself a chance. And when you give yourself a chance, slowly but surely, magical things do start to happen. And you start to heal slowly but surely. And you do it in a way where you become just, you almost like you become unstoppable in a sense, because you've been through all that. You've lived through that nightmare and you showed up, and then one thing said, okay, I can do this. I can start healing internally. And then you start saying, I get to love myself. And self-love is one of the hardest things that I think we can struggle with in our lifetime. And I know me and Sean have talked about this before. It's almost impossible sometimes. But when you give yourself that chance and you start to surround yourself with people that care about you, and you start to really care about yourself, I mean, you are able to do unbelievable things, and you're able to share this journey, and you're able to share this story with many different people, because you sit there and say, you know what? It's not always easy, but I'm still going to love myself, and I'm still going to give myself that shot. And it allows you to sit back and hopefully when you go to bed, have some peace in your heart, because you deserve that.
Totally. I completely agree. And I think it also is like, this doesn't get any easier. Like this, you know, because what we're talking about, because you found self-love, like that doesn't mean that like you don't still get depressed.
No.
You still have anxiety. It's just you're learning to handle your emotions and not react to them, and to process them, and to let things go more, and to let things like flow through you as opposed to holding on to them. And I still struggle with this. I still struggle with this, like, and I'm aware of it, you know, and even doing the work, you still have those moments where you're like, I need to like let this just pass through me. This has nothing to do with me. I need to let this go, you know. And it's an uphill battle. And the more, I think the deeper you dive, the more you unlock. And it's like, yeah, it gets a little bit harder, but like when you come through the other side, it's so fucking amazing. Like, keep going, you know, like the pain that you're in, or the depression that you're in and that you're trying to move through, if you get through it, when you come out of the other side of it, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is from John Maxwell. He says, everything worthwhile is uphill. And it's one of the truest quotes I've ever heard. It's just like, anything that is going to be worth your time, that's valuable, that means something, it's going to be uphill. You know, none of that stuff is going to come easy. And I think what I took away from just what you're saying there is like, awareness, and then the second part is commitment. Like you need to make a conscious decision to commit to your growth daily. And I know for myself, it's a daily pursuit. I'm struggling daily with trying to get better and trying to fix my bad habits and all everything that I've been through in the past. And it's some days you feel great, some days you don't. But like you said, it's like if you're aware of this stuff and you make a commitment, you decide to do it, then you're 10 times better than anyone else, because it's hard to commit, and that's probably the hardest part about it. And consistency compounds,
Yeah. Like I struggle with meditation. Probably the most important thing for me to be doing is meditating twice a day. I coach my clients on meditation. Like I have it in my calendar, time blocked. Meditation is so hard for me to get done. Like I'm so resistant. It's the most important thing. But like same thing with journaling. But I know I have to do them, and I just have to do it. It's like eating your green beans. You just got to do it. Like enough is enough. How much more am I going to resist my own growth?
And I think it's unbelievable because it's amazing that it's so easy to say, but so hard to do when it comes to growing, right? It's like all I have to do today is make this phone call to this one person. I'm going to feel better about my anxiety. I'm going to feel better about my addiction or whatever I'm going through, but it's still so hard to do. And it's like, I don't want to call, I don't want to meditate today, but I'm going to do it because I know it's going to help me in the long run. And it's about getting over that feeling of uncomfortableness and saying, what, shit, I'm just going to do this anyway. I'm going to stay disciplined. I'm going to stick to the course because I know it might not help me today, but it's going to help me tomorrow. And it's going to help me in the future. And when you commit to that and when you make that conscious commitment, it's unbelievable because so many people that do struggle from mental health battles, right? And are going through these things. It's sometimes we feel so alone and so isolated in our thoughts. And it's just like, I just want, anyone to know out there that may be suffering, it's compassion to yourself too.
Yeah, it's totally compassion to yourself. And it's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have sad thoughts. It's okay. You just can't hold on to them. Give yourself the time. I would do the mental games with myself. Okay, you get to be sad about this today, and then tomorrow you're done. If you need to lay in bed all day on Sunday and be sad and cry, then you can do that all day Sunday. But on Monday, you have to get up and send some emails and be a functioning person because you took your time to be sad on Sunday.
And I think that's the amazing thing is the way you present yourself, you're such a beautiful person. You have this huge heart. You have just the biggest heart of almost anyone I know, but you're still so disciplined and so tough in this amazing way. It's this incredible combination. It's I want to be you. It's
a lot, guys. That's a lot.
I'm crying on the inside.
But it's true. It's you've been through so much, and the way you've been able to just turn this into just helping people, and you literally commit your life to doing that. That's not an easy thing to do, and I just commend you in every aspect of your life. And I know me and Sean are your biggest fans.
I was so depressed this week.
Yeah.
The past 2 weeks, I couldn't shake it. I was like, what is going on? I haven't been like this in so long, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's just part of life. You have to navigate it, or it navigates you.
It does. How have you been doing? How have you been dealing with that depression when it comes back? Because I know it's obviously listen, everyone needs to understand it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Mental health isn't a linear process. It doesn't you're not fixed overnight, right? It's how have you been dealing with some of your demons and some of that? How's that been going for you so far? What have you been doing to, I guess, help yourself or just even feel it in a sense?
I still go to do therapy every week.
That's great.
I feel that's critical. And I allow myself time to be sad. And then I have to function. And it doesn't necessarily work that well, that process, but sometimes it carries over. But at least I'm giving myself the space that it's okay, because before this was never okay. It was never okay to break down or to be like debilitated, because of sadness. But I realized that if I don't do that, my physical body will do it for me. Like, so I can either take the space that I need, or I will just get shingles. And then I will have to be done for like 2 weeks. And that puts me in a complete spiral, like mentally, because, all this physical stuff is happening I'm not in control of. And, like I have to now break, or I break, literally. So
I think getting out of that reactive state is just so key. When you're reacting to everything, it's just like you said, you're out of control. You're not in the driver's seat. And if you anticipate, okay, these things will happen, they're gonna come up, this is how I'm gonna try and deal with these things as they come, as opposed to reacting when it's coming. It's like, there's another good quote, like when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. So it's like, you can't react to these situations. You have to anticipate a little bit more.
yeah, and not so fucking pissed off at myself when I can't do everything.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I'm putting all of this pressure on myself. Right now, I can tell you 17 things that happened this week that I completely cultivated on my own and blame myself for. But I'm like, well, if you don't pass that test, you'll just take it again. It's not a big deal. It's your company. You built it. So if it's going to take you an extra week to get that license, then it's going to take you an extra week. I'm creating my own demons right now, out of my own practice. So I need to put those things and not beat myself up about them and just wait. But I'm, also it's learning how to wait, and not everything has to be right now. And even when I went through this process, with healing and going to therapy every day and dealing with the suicide, I expected myself to be completely fine in 2 weeks. Do you know how insane that is to say? It's how many years later and I'm still not completely okay. But I
piggybacking off of that, how, if you don't mind answering this, totally okay if not, but how do you feel about your fiance now? How did you feel initially once you kind of came back to your conscious mind, and where are you now?
I was really angry. I was really fucking angry. And I don't know if anger has enough veracity to explain how angry I was.
Because of what?
Betrayal, the lies, we didn't dive into 80% of the things that occurred. So my future's gone. Across the country, I have no money. I have no mental state. And then I'm finding out that he planned this. And then I'm finding out that his divorce wasn't up to par on the timeline that he provided to me. And then I'm also finding this labyrinth of bullshit fucking material and information that I have to dig through like a psycho, trying to fucking put this Rubik's Cube together. I was furious. Everything I had ever worked for, mentally and physically and emotionally, was ripped at that moment in time. I was so mad. After I was done being sad, I was destroyed. I was destroyed. I blamed myself for this whole thing. I could go through the entire day and find the times that I could have stopped him. Like I mentioned, him walking across the pool, when I saw him walk up the stairs, that right there, I fucking blamed myself for not stopping him for months because I could have prevented this. It was my fault we were in the Bahamas. It was, you know what I mean? Like, these are the types of language that you start speaking to yourself. So like after you're done, after that was done, I was like angry as a fucking motherfucker. Like, I was fury. And then I felt really bad for him. After that passed, it came to the point where I started to understand where you have to be in your head to get to that place where this is an option. Now, he had 2 children as well. So he not only like left his kids with no father, and I mean, I'm an adult, you know, like whatever, like I can figure it out. There are kids, you know, that are growing up in this situation with no dad, and they're in the middle of a divorce as well. So their mental health and well-being takes precedence, I think, out of all the components to this fucked up shit that happened. But like for him to just bail on that and to be in a space where he didn't think that they needed him is, I can't understand because I'm not him, but you can't be in a good place. And that I felt really bad for him after. And I had to get that low myself to understand what that means, to think about yourself and that you have no value on the planet and no one would miss you or need you. And I've never been close to suicide until this happened. Like my close friend growing up, her brother had killed himself, but we weren't really close and I didn't really understand. And someone made a comment to me and it never sat with me correctly. Suicide's a very delicate subject, and I don't think that making off the cuff comments like this is appropriate. But they said this. That was so selfish. And I was like, go fuck yourself. Like, response. Like, selfish, like, when you're that dark, you don't think about anybody but yourself because you're that dark. But what she meant to say, I think, was this person wasn't thinking about everyone around them that loved them and needed them in their life. That's what I think she meant to say. And it came out as this other statement. And that stuck with me. And when this happened, I was like, those kids, like he didn't have that understanding of how important his presence would be in their life before he did this.
And I think what's like you said about that, I remember that was one of the big things that a couple people in our town said after my best friend died by suicide. And it really frustrated me because I was like, you guys have no idea. This guy was an incredible human that fought so hard. And to be in that space, like you said, of darkness. And I think it's interesting because I've been in that space before, right? And I wasn't always in that space, but when you kind of feel it and you go through it, it makes you have even, as much, and it's amazing, again, it's a testament to your character. As much as you were hurt by Doug's decisions, you still had the feeling, in your mind to say, I feel bad for him, and you have compassion for him. And again, it's just a testament to you as a human being and to what we can do to hopefully prevent other people from going down that path. Is, as hard as it is, try to lead with love and try to do what we can to get people out of those dark spaces and to have those important conversations like you do right now. And the work that you're doing right now is so vital in the lives of so many people, because when we can have these conversations, you might be able to have someone that maybe has been in that dark space that's planning out something to say, wow, maybe I can get through this. Maybe there's another way out. Maybe I can go to therapy. Maybe I can have a conversation. Maybe I do matter more than I think. And to me, what you're doing and how you explain that hits me so hard. And that hits me in so many different deep ways, because there's so many people on this planet that suffer too much, right? And for you to, to go what you've gone through and still have that forgiveness and that compassion in your heart, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And to not, I mean, we have to start having these conversations like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially, not to bring up COVID, but like, there was issues with suicide and mental health before COVID, but now we're in like the heightened state of depression and anxiety. Like, mental health is so insanely critical, much more than it already is critical. And like, opening up this dialogue with people and being able to have these uncomfortable conversations with people, and like realizing that the friends that you have and the network of people that you have around you are critical. And if you can't have these types of conversations with them, you shouldn't have them in your circle. And can tell you that like my circle of human beings have changed so significantly. And the people that I talk to and that are around me, like, we talk about existentialism and mental health, and and this is our dinner conversation, and we talk about our life goals, and we talk about our depression issues, and we talk about ugly things that I would never talk about before, but like, this is just part of the language that we speak, because it's now a comfortable container. It's a safe container with other people that care about your well-being. And like, if you don't have that, get rid of the people in your circle. It's like,
Amen.
talk about depression, friend, get rid of your friend. Or if they're going to judge you on it, get rid of your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's time to like cut the garbage out. You don't need to hang on to people because you've been friends with them since you were 5, and they're not in a space where you feel comfortable talking about your demons with. We have demons and we need to talk about them, or they turn them. My dog is losing his mind right.
What kind of dog is it?
Yeah, Chihuahua, and he's 15 and he's blind.
Oh,
and
Oh my God.
he like
good
gets
boy.
himself in corners and then he can't get out. He's in a corner. He'll be fine. But we have to start having these conversations, because it's everyone's going through something, and if we don't talk about it, it just manifests into suicide. It manifests into like hurting others. It manifests into self-sabotage, into destroying relationships because you're too scared to show up. I could keep going and going and going, and all this stuff. And it's really apparent to me is now that I've gone through all this stuff, I'm so aware of other people's energy, and like intuitively I can like feel things, and I never knew I was an empath before, and real. I can feel, and I can't even believe I talk like this again, but I can feel shifts in people, and I can feel like pain in people, and I can see what they're avoiding, and they don't have to talk to me. And I can't say it to them because that's so intrusive, but I can just be like, wow, and I don't know if
So they have a label on the forehead,
you can see how people carry themselves and like how they exude their own energy. And I don't know if you've had any experience with this. I'm learning about this stuff because it was never it was something I could do in business, but never in like such a, oh my God, like vulnerable state with humans.
It's a testament to your growth, though, and the work that you've done. I mean, this is a new gift that's came to you as a result of doing the work and going through it, and I think as you continue your journey, your process, there's going to be more things that just keep coming to you that you would never in your wildest dreams think you'd be able to do or attract, and it's just part of the process.
So when we were talking about like love before and like learning to love, and that like this experience of like this empath experience has been part of me learning that like I'm like there's no walls, and like everything hits like daggers.
Yeah.
So I have to be really careful about my like space, like personal space, like emotional personal space, like who I let into my circle of people, because I don't have any boundaries around this yet, and I haven't figured out how to like protect it without it becoming like a steel wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how to, you know, process other people's like empathy and energy. And like when I started doing these podcasts, for example, great example, I got like a bunch of phone calls from people I didn't know. People hitting me up on IG asking to talk. Yeah, like our relationship is so beautiful.
Some of those guys.
But like I started having back-to-back calls with people, and it was like I haven't had talk for like 8 hours, strangers, you know, or you know, it was beautiful because it was so impactful, but I didn't understand how to not retain what they were telling me, because some people were telling me like their deepest, darkest stuff. And I'm so grateful to be able to help them, but at the same time, I didn't understand how to not retain it, not hold it.
It's very hard.
Yeah. And so it's been an interesting process going through like being so cold-hearted to being so available emotionally to be scarred and like not, but like in a good way. Like I'm so happy to be in this space, but like just it's a totally a new land. Like once you start letting walls down, letting things in, you don't realize how much they can affect you.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's continuing to take care of yourself and to understand if you hear something, it's like, you know, you're going to always, because, you know, that's one of the problems I have. I just want to help that person. I want to make them feel good. I want to make sure their day's great. I want to make sure that they can, after this conversation, they feel good. And sometimes it's hard to let that go, and you keep it with you because, oh, I wonder how that person's doing. Are they okay? And it's like, you know, there's those times where it's like, okay, like I care about them so much. I want them to be okay, but I'm going to take a breath today because I want to pet my dog. I want to read. I want to do something, you know, for myself today. And in a sense, it doesn't mean I don't care about that person. I don't want to see him succeed, but it's finding that kind of that balance that can sometimes be tricky in this world, in a sense.
Totally.
Yeah. I think that's what's amazing about you is you put yourself out there 100% of the time, and you're so like vulnerable, and you're so fearless, and you're able to talk about anything. And I think that's something that I appreciate more than anything, because it allows me to have hope for my own struggles. And I think that the more that you are yourself, and the more that you protect yourself and continue to take care of yourself, that hope is going to spread like wildfire to so many people in so many different areas of life and conversations. Because, you know, it's funny, you know, it's, as you know, I lost my best friend to suicide, but what I was relating to in some of your story was actually some of the issues that I've just been going through personally. And I was like, wow, if she can do it, and she does it in such a beautiful manner, you know, that motivates me to say, I can do it. And she went through the ringer, and you know what, I could go through something that's smaller, even though it feels big right now. I could go through it, and I feel inspired to do it because of you. And you know what, I think it's just a great gift getting to know you and to be able to have these conversations. And I feel blessed, because it's like we've been on the phone for like over 2 hours, and I feel like it's almost been 10 minutes, and it's like
We can go for another 2 hours too.
And just your willingness to go there is unbelievable. It shows how much you care, and it shows how much you, I don't know. It's just, you don't meet people like you every day. I'll tell you that much. And I'm so grateful for this. And I think one last thing that I want to ask, and I'll let Sean ask any other questions if he has them, but is there just anything else that maybe we missed that you just want to add, that you want to say to the world before we do sign off? And hopefully it's not signing off forever. Hopefully we keep this conversation going, because I just feel good in your presence. But is there anything else that maybe you wanted to add that's been on your mind or on your heart from this conversation?
Yeah, one thing. You mentioned that I'm fearless. I am not. I'm scared shitless. Like, I I'm scared to talk about suicide. I'm scared to tell my story. I'm scared to show up for myself. I'm scared to put my heart out there again and possibly have it broken again. I am scared to fail. I am scared to be broke. I'm scared of fucking everything. But I'm not going to let that prevent me from being the best version of myself. And therefore, I'm going to face my fears. And I'm going to do everything that scares me. And that's it. Like that's I think how we need to look at, moving forward through life, because everything is scary, but like you just have to do it. You just have to rip the Band-Aid off and just fucking do it, because it's going to hold you back from being the best version of yourself, and you're never going to feel accomplished if you let fear determine your future.
Well said. And I think that I'm kind of taking away from that. It's just like how you build strength, which is the opposite of what people think, is being vulnerable and putting it all out there. Like, think about the movie 8 Mile, when he's battle rapping him, and he's like, I'm from a trailer park, I got blah, 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 everything done to me, and it's all out on the table. And it's like, what can you do to me now? You can't, there's nothing you can tell me to win. I'll tell you, here's my life. And it's like, you think in your own head that people are going to judge you based off these things, but it's, you know what, they can judge you, but who the hell cares? And in that process of doing that, I know me personally, I've done it. It's just like, put it all out there, and you're actually just padding the armor. You're getting stronger and stronger by letting out all of your secrets, all of your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses. So that's what I kind of took away from that. It's incredible.
Yeah, and if somebody's judging you, it's because they're judging themselves, and you're the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's like talking shit, you're like, it's because that's their demon that they haven't faced, and they're just using you as like a reflection of that. So like, Who gives a shit what people think? Like, who gives a fucking shit? Like, just go do it. Like, just, if it doesn't harm you and your family, go do it. Because what if you don't? You're going to live your entire life and you're going to think, what if I showed up? What if I actually, what would your life be like? What if you actually accomplished the thing that you were most scared of accomplishing? Like, you would be fucking so happy and living a exuberant life.
I think the worst thing in life is to live with regrets. And I mean, I'm happy to say that I don't live with any. And it's just like, people are scared to do stuff, like you said, because like it takes a small little thing for them to jump off the cliff, right? But like, once they do, they're so much happier, even doing a podcast like this and exposing your deepest secrets, and all these demons in your life. It's like, it might be scary, like you said, but like, what if you didn't? And what if some random person that heard this podcast today is affected by you, and they make that decision to, better themselves and not do something harmful or whatever it may be, and living with that regret is just, in my eyes, the most tragic thing that could happen to someone.
Yeah. Yep. And then you carry resentment, and then you project that resentment on other people for dumb shit.
Yeah.
It's a horrible life to live. And it's so funny you mentioned that like 8 Mile clip, because for some reason I was like scrolling through TV randomly like the other night, and that like it came on that portion of that movie. And this is the best part of this whole movie, and like totally triggered. And then for you to bring that up was amazing.
I watched the ayahuasca documentary 2 weeks ago.
Oh, the Unheal one?
Yeah. So it's just crazy you brought that up too, which I had no idea prior. So
we should, when we're done recording, we should talk about that, because that documentary, not the best portrayal.
I watched 2.
What?
I watched 2 of them.
Okay. The one on Unhealed, I was like, this is not doing this justice at all.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I need to send you another podcast to me and my buddy.
my one ayahuasca journey.
All right, Johnny, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I'll just say it's like your story is a testament to the resilience of you being just you're an unbelievable human. And I think it reminds all of us to just never give up. Even if you feel like you're in a hole that you can't get out of, you feel like your world is shattered, you feel like there's literally no way out, take it day by day, take it minute by minute, and continue to show up even when you don't want to show up. And I think that's the key, because when we continue to show up, life becomes magical slowly but surely, and it's not going to happen overnight. And sometimes it's going to be, and it's still going to be hard, but it becomes manageable. And you get to have moments like this where you have beautiful conversations with strangers that become friends. And it's just, to me, this was an honor, and I can't wait to send this to you all. And then what I'll have to do is I'll have to end this meeting, and then it's going to take like 30 minutes to save, but then I could kind of send it out to all you guys, and I could edit a couple parts if we want, and then we're good to go. But thank you so much. This means the world to us.
Absolutely amazing, Diamandia. You are a treasure to the world, and I feel so fortunate and blessed to know you and share this experience with you tonight. It's just amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. You're so nice. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's been a pleasure to talk about my darkest demons.
Well, it's also a pleasure that I love is hearing some of your greatest accomplishments too after those dark demons. So we love you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, even though I just met you 2 hours ago. We're always here for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.